And we're back with more breaking news, this time regarding a major American automaker halting production, even as car prices remain very high. It began with silence on a factory floor in Detroit, once filled with the hum of assembly lines. Machines powered down, and workers looked at each other, stunned. The news had come in. General Motors was shutting down production once again. This time, it was not due to a recession or a chip shortage. It was a deliberate decision by the largest automaker in the United States to suspend operations at key plants across the country, affecting thousands of jobs and entire communities. In the background, the contrasting voices of two influential figures, Mary Barra, CEO of GM, and Donald Trump, former president and proponent of economic nationalism. GM's announcement came with alarming clarity. The company was halting production in several locations and cutting thousands of jobs as it shifted more focus to electric vehicles, EVs. The layoffs began in Ontario, Canada, where the CAMI facility, which builds electric delivery vans, ceased operations, sending over 100 to 200 workers home. In Michigan, nearly 200 workers were laid off at Factory Zero, which assembles EVs. Vehicles once touted as the future were now sitting idle. GM stated that the shutdown was temporary and part of a retooling phase to prepare for next-generation EVs. However, they did not openly acknowledge that many of these workers might never return. When production resumes, it will operate on one shift instead of three, meaning that nearly 500 jobs may never be reinstated. This is the harsh reality of corporate reinvention. Then came Trump. He called the decision a betrayal, standing in front of a crowd and doing what he does best, turning a corporate move into a national issue. He criticized GM for abandoning American workers and threatened to impose a 25% tariff on every vehicle not made in the United States. The auto industry felt the effects as Trump's 25% tariff on imported car parts took effect this weekend. His words hit hard. The market recoiled, investors panicked, and automakers scrambled. Behind the scenes, GM had already started to warn about the potential impacts. They slashed their profit forecasts, citing the tariffs as a potential $5 billion hit. GM also announced it would incur more than $5 billion in losses and write-offs related to the restructuring of its joint venture in China. CEO Mary Barra warned that the company would need to rethink its supply chain. They withdrew earnings guidance entirely, stating that the outlook was too uncertain to predict. On the factory floor, workers were reminded of 2018, when Trump launched a similar attack, when GM announced 5 plant closures and 14,000 layoffs. Back then, GM argued that it was about efficiency. Now, it was about survival. Trump's new tariffs are not just theoretical, they are a political tool. A 25% tax on all imported vehicles, with no exceptions. He has warned that if countries like Canada, Mexico, or EU members retaliate, he will escalate the situation. In Windsor, Ontario, Stellantis was forced to shut down its minivan plant, laying off 4,500 workers. In Mexico, another 2,500 were let go, and in the US, nearly 1,000 Stellantis employees in Michigan and Indiana were furloughed due to parts no longer being able to move freely across borders. As Trump announced new tariffs this week, workers at Stellantis were concerned about their futures. The company revealed that it would temporarily lay off 900 workers at 5 US plants. The ripple effect is just beginning. Auto suppliers in the Midwest are being hit hard, with parts shipments stalled, orders cancelled, and tool and die shops that survived the pandemic now struggling due to the tariff war. Thousands of additional layoffs are expected, and unions are furious. Flavio Volpi, head of Canada's Auto Parts Association, stated that between 10,000 and 12,000 workers have lost their jobs due to this shutdown cascade, though this number could be conservative. This is not just economic pressure, it's economic trauma. Consumers will not be spared. Analysts warn that car prices could rise by thousands of dollars, and buyers are rushing to dealerships to lock in old prices before inventories run out. But once the lots are empty, it will be too late. While GM attempts to present a hopeful vision of a green future and electric innovation, The reality is far harsher. Workers are not losing their jobs because of failure. They are losing them because of broader industry shifts. Because the world has changed, the policies guiding that change are challenging what once made America's auto industry great. In Britain, electric vehicle mandates were quietly relaxed to give manufacturers more flexibility amid Trump's trade war, and the UK government has announced a softening of electric vehicle sales targets to support the car industry in response to trade tariffs from the US. The European Union warned of potential economic retaliation. Japan and South Korea are also on edge. Global automakers are reconsidering their investments in the United States. This is not just a domestic issue, it's a global challenge, and GM finds itself in the middle. Mary Barra entered the White House for a high-stakes meeting with Trump's advisors. Behind closed doors, the situation was tense. Trump pushed for more domestic production, while Barra pushed back, supported by data and projections. General Motors is not moving operations overseas to save money. They are shifting production to where the necessary parts, like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, are available. These resources don't come from Michigan. They are sourced from the Congo, Australia, and South America. The supply chain for electric vehicles is different, and the production model is global, which doesn't align with Trump's America First policies. GM says it is building battery plants and investing in Nevada, Tennessee, and Michigan, but it cannot make a full transition overnight. Trump's tariffs could delay or derail some of these projects. For the workers, voters, and families affected, none of this matters. They see lost paychecks, mortgages at risk, and uncertain futures. For Donald Trump, this situation has become a stage where GM is no longer seen as a symbol of innovation, but of disloyalty. In an election year, that symbolism is significant. The next few months will determine whether GM can weather this storm, adapt quickly enough to survive the political pressures, tariffs, and supply chain issues. If not, the consequences could be severe. The American auto industry is not dying, but it is undergoing a transformation in real time, and the battle lines are drawn. Trump has his message, GM has its mission, and workers have their livelihoods at stake. This is the future, and it is not waiting for anyone. The tension has spread to Capitol Hill, where lawmakers from both parties are considering the fallout. Some are calling for targeted relief for displaced workers, while others are demanding new rules that tie future subsidies to domestic production. Economists warn that policies based on punishment, rather than cooperation, could permanently harm the North American supply chain. Meanwhile, Wall Street is anxious. GM's stock has fallen, losing billions in market capitalization. Analysts have downgraded the stock, citing uncertainties over production timelines, potential price increases, and political risks. Consumers, too, are facing fewer choices and higher prices. The electric revolution, once promised as a step toward prosperity, now looks like a battleground. Amid the turmoil, families affected by the shutdowns are making difficult decisions. Some are pulling their children from college to save money, while others are delaying retirement. Local businesses near shuttered factories are seeing a decline in foot traffic. The true cost of disruption is not just economic, it's deeply personal. As the world watches GM's gamble and Trump's response unfold, one thing is clear. This is not just a story about cars, it is about identity, about what it means to work, to build, and to belong in an America that is changing faster than anyone anticipated. The outcome of this standoff may not only define the future of one company, but could shape the future of an entire industry, workforce, and a generation's vision of economic security. The road ahead is long and filled with challenges, but somewhere on that road, amidst the headlines and heartache, a new model of American industry is beginning to emerge. Whether it will run on gasoline, lithium, or sheer political will, only time will tell.